Thank you very much. That was wonderful. I think we all will have good, bright future as long as Susan is around, because she'll keep reminding us of this stuff. So it was nice, Susan. Thank you. What an awesome responsibility I have, to share. It's a humbling privilege that I have the responsibility to share a message to you, and I take that seriously. And so I hope we will be blessed together as we worship the Lord. It's going to be a short message before we go and do our foot washing, and then come back here for the Lord's Supper. But for the sake of people who do not know or what we really do, let me just give you a rundown of what we do usually in a communion service. On a communion Sabbath, we usually cut back on every aspect of other part of the worship service and make it shorter than normal, so that we have time for foot washing later in the day, and then come back and partake of the communion bread and the symbol of God's shed blood in the form of the grape juice. And so we usually have shorter version of everything, and then we disperse the church right after the message without ending with prayer. We just go in separate places, at the designated places, and then do our foot washing. And there is no criteria of how you want to do this, except that it is requested that you do wash someone's. And there is a basin there, and there is water, pots with water, and just take how much ever water you want, put it in that basin, and take that basin to the person that you want to wash their feet. And of course, take a towel that is readily available, and each one of you take turns to do it. He sits, and you sit down, and squat down and wash his feet, and later on throw the water away, put the towel away, get the other person will get a basin and water and a towel, and then come and wash the other person's feet. I know it's so easy, because for us who've been Seventh-day Adventist all our life, I can do this eyes closed and hands tied back, except I need my hands to wash the feet, But then it amazes you how much we take it for granted. The symbolisms, they're filled with rich message, rich lessons in there. So, as I said earlier, part of the service this morning, you don't have to be a baptized member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church to do this. We practice in the Adventist Church what we call open communion, meaning everybody and anybody can participate at the Lord's table, no restriction, except the only requirement is self-explanatory. This is all about Jesus. If Jesus is your personal Savior and Lord, that you love Him and you accept Him as your Savior, then there is no other restriction for you than to participate in the table, on the table, with the communion service. So don't worry if you're not a baptized member of the church. As long as Jesus is your God, you can participate today. So if you don't know exactly what you have to do, just watch. And it's not embarrassing. See what they do and then follow. Or if you're comfortable to call upon one of those members, or members you're comfortable to approach one of the other people who are not so used to, approach them and do it. And then talk it over while you're doing it. Tell them what you do, why you do what you do. Okay? And that's about it. I want to take this time too to let you know, because this is the only Sabbath I'll be here. The next Sabbath I'll be here. I'm probably going to miss this family that I adore so much. Eric and Lori, I don't know the nitty-gritty, the details and stuff, but I know that there's a huge potential that moving out from the house where they are at, and they have other plans. And so, how many of you know Lori and Eric and the family? Okay. Some of you don't know. They're right there at the back. I'm not trying to embarrass you, but that's Destiny, Lori, and Eric, and then Maverick. It has part of Eric's name there, huh? And then, of course, Sally Ann. Sweet, wonderful people. And you get to approach them after church and ask them what their plans are. But surely we're not going to have them too long. For sure, our church will be open. They can always come back and visit us and worship with us. But I, as a pastor of the church, would like to recognize what you brought to the table in our church. And all the years that I've been here, and in the years that I was not here too. You guys have been awesome, and I think you've been a blessing to us. Most of the time, at least during my tenure, and you guys work behind the scene and accomplish a lot. You're not one of those who are at the front and do a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of things that runs in the background. I do know, and this, you guys, when you do things in the background, you guys are second to none. You really do well in what you do. So, as a pastor of the church, we'd like to recognize your help, initiative, and the blessings you brought to church. And thank you so much for being in church this morning. And we'll see where our paths go. But I have another home wherever you guys are. I'm probably going to come there and stay in your house too. So you cannot get rid of me, huh? Okay, that is good. That is good. For a short devotional this morning, I'd like to take our minds back, all of us together, to that night, just before Jesus was betrayed, and just see the last few hours of his life, and what he did with the time that he had in his hand. So let's bow our head for a short word of prayer this morning. Our Father in heaven, we want to call upon your presence again. May you lead us out and teach us, Lord, that even it may be a brief one, but an appointed one, an important one, so that it will move us for service. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I read from John chapter 13. If you have your Bibles with you, you're welcome to go with me to John chapter 13. And I'm going to read a verse or two from there. This is why we do what we do, okay? And this is chapter 13 of John, and I read let me read the first verse on. It says, "Now, before the feast of the Passover, Jesus, knowing that his hour had come, that he would depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end." Verse 2, "During supper, the devil having already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come forth from God and was going back to God, he got up from supper and laid aside his garments, and taking a towel, he girded himself." Verse 5, "That he poured water into the basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded." Now you know what we do, why we do what we do. Preceding to the establishment of the Lord's Supper, the communion bread and the wine, as a symbol of his shed blood, Jesus perceived something was amiss. Before he can usher his disciple into communion, where they can come into a union with him, there was something that stopped. And recognizing it, Jesus said, something has to be done about this. In the ancient world, and it's even now in some of the cultures of the world, especially it is in the culture that I come from in Asia, when you go to a person's house, they usually will let you wash your feet. And it's the custom of the culture that you do. If you go to India, you can see this in the rural places, because how they construct the houses now in the apartments, and you cannot do that outside, and you have to go to the bathroom. Usually, as you enter the house, right in front of the house, the guest, the host of the house, will bring forth water, or have a place, basin or a bucket of water, and for them to actually wash their feet. And then they will dry their feet with a towel before coming into the house. It is a sign of respect to do that. Now, most often, in the ancient culture, what they do is this. They had servants, and many of them had slaves too. And so the servants will actually stand there when the invited guest comes to the host's house. the servant actually will go and scoop the water and pour it and wash the feet of the guest that is invited. As I said, sometimes it's the slaves that do it. It is actually showing respect to the host that you've invited when you let a servant or a slave to wash your guest's feet. It's showing respect. He said, "You're very welcome. We are honored by your presence. We wanted to show you our respect." And that's what they do. But even in the ancient culture, they go one step more. When the host himself will take the initiative of washing the invited guest's feet, it's showing the utmost respect to that person. So when someone shows up and the host says, "Servant and slave, no, I got this," and he washes in turn the feet of the guest, there's nothing more greater respect than that. You would see in many instances in Jesus' ministry when he was sitting in Simon the leper's house, I think, when he was sitting in there, and the woman who, sinful woman, so to say, she came in and she remember how she cried, wept, and with her tears washed Jesus' feet, and with her hair wiped dry. And the people were saying, "Oh boy, you don't know this woman. She's not a good woman." And knowing the intention of their hearts, Jesus said, "When I came, none of you washed my feet." That's how arrogant people were. When Jesus came to their house, it's something it's not very pleasing. You don't want to go there because it's humbling yourself beyond that person, beneath that person. So they were not ready to do that. So Jesus said, "You did not wash my feet. You did not give me water." But this lady does so. And so what happened is when Jesus sent his disciples forth to prepare for the Passover supper, Passover meal, in the upper room, when they all got together there, just before Jesus could have this transition of the two services, the Passover was coming to an end, in a good sense, finding fulfillment in Jesus. And Jesus, from that point on, initiated the communion service, which is an extension of the Passover. It's a new covenant in Jesus' blood and broken body. He said, "Boy, these people are still striving with some disease." And this is what Ellen White actually has to say in Desire of Ages. Says this: "There was a strife among them, which of them should be accounted the greatest. This contention, carried on in the presence of Christ, grieved and wounded him. The disciples clung to the favorite idea that Christ would assert his power and take his position on the throne of David, and in heart each still longed for the highest place in the kingdom." They all want to be great. They had nothing personally against Jesus, but nobody initiated this foot washing, which is a custom in that culture, because they don't want to be looked upon as weak person. Everybody wanted Jesus to establish a kingdom, and then they wanted to sit on the right side and on his left side, but nobody would step down and do the service to show true humility. Seeing this is when Jesus said, "This is too bad." He gets up, takes out the outer garment, ties a towel around his waist, takes the basin, fills it up with water, goes to the first person and started washing the feet. And he did that to everyone. And that was a very object lesson that Jesus was saying, that in serving others is when you are in a high and elevated place. If you want to be the leader of all, you will first have to become the servant of all. And that's why in Christian world, we have this concept of Christian leadership. Christian leader or a servant leader. You would never have this in the outside world. It's a cutthroat world out there. You have to be a leader. You have to be boisterous. You have to be in command. You have to dictate. You cannot show any sign of weakness. That means you're not a good leader. But when it comes to the spiritual realities, true and greatest leader is one who's a servant of all. Can you imagine that? And that's why Jesus' kingdom is oftentimes called the upside-down kingdom. So the lesson number one we learn from this act of Lord's Supper, the communion service, the foot washing, is true humility. When you want to become the greatest, you first of all become the servant of all. The second lesson, after which I'm done, is again found in the second lesson that I want to share with you is true greatness. Jesus took the initiative to demonstrate true greatness. Jesus set out by being the servant and washed his disciples' dirty and dusty feet. So the second lesson from Jesus' demonstration is that true greatness does not come from pride or perceived self-centered greatness, nor does it diminish with the act of humiliation or selfless humbling before others. Jesus, being the very essence of God, through and by whom the entire known and the unknown universe was created, did not lose anything by humbling himself to the point of touching his disciples' feet. Like the unconverted disciples, what is your reason? I asked, this is in my newsletter that I wrote, what would be your reason of not humbling yourself? I, through my ministry experience, have faced a lot of different circumstances. There are times people wouldn't just participate in Lord's Supper. I said, why would you do that? It's an avenue where we can come together to the Lord's table and be blessed. Why would you never want to sit at the table with the Lord? And there are times when they wanted to do only the communion service, but are not ready to do the act of humbling oneself. But that defeats the purpose. Jesus, knowing that people do have problem, he institutes the foot washing so that we are truly humble. And so, where is your heart today? Where is my heart today? Do you want to follow Jesus' example or the disciples, unconverted disciples' example? They were not saying, I'm not going to wash, let somebody else do it. But Jesus said, no, I'm going to do for all of you. Who would you want to follow? And I believe when we humble ourselves and touch someone else's feet and do wash it, I believe in my heart that I'm actually doing it to the Lord himself. Because Jesus said, when you do anything, I believe, to the least of my brethren, what does the verse say? You do it unto me. And that has been my practice ever since I was a child, when I was able to start doing communion service. And that was always the thing. When I touch anybody's feet, that transforms to me as Jesus' feet. When I touch it, it's a privilege for me. I said, Lord, I have a privilege of touching your feet and washing and drying them. What an awesome privilege, Lord. Because if the verse is right, when I do to the least of my brethren, I truly do it unto the Lord, then that is true. And so there are times that I go overboard. I do more than one. When I get hold of 2-3 people, I say, you don't have no problem, I'll do it. And I'll do it, and I'll do it. It's such a joy for me. And not that I'm asking you to go and take 3 or 4 people. If you do it just one set of feet, that's more than enough. But there are times sometimes when we have no even numbers, and there are odd numbers, and everybody is done and gone, and I know that the person that's not there. And so I just wait and then do it for them too. They don't have to wash mine because mine is washed already, but at least I get to wash another set. So it's a beautiful service. I also have to say this, and there are times that people give another reason. Say, you know what, my heart is not right. Well, why do you think we start announcing that we have this in weeks ahead of time? The reason is we want ourselves to be ready for this. If you think there's anything going to stop you from coming to the Lord's table, do something about it. Lay it aside. Come to the table in unity. But there are also people who say, you know what, someone has wronged me. That person has to come say sorry. And only then. Wrong concept of forgiveness altogether. We'll talk that at another time. Don't let that person hold you out from the Lord's table, no matter what that person is doing or not doing. That should not change your response to the Lord. Forgiveness is your side of doing things. You don't forgive because they asked for it. There's nothing truly great in there. When you're able to forgive even when they don't even ask. That's again what Jesus did. Did we all ask us to be forgiven? Jesus is said to be the lamb that was slaughtered even before the foundation of this earth. Even before one single human being could be here and sin and ask for forgiveness, Jesus says, I'm going to still forgive. And that's the attitude we should have, I believe. And so today is a joyous occasion of touching Jesus' feet in the form of our fellow brothers and sisters. And then on come together to worship God and partake at the Lord's table. So at this moment, I'd like to request all of you to be able to go and wash the feet. The men will go downstairs in the basement, and the ladies, and if there are families, you can stay up on the first floor. We'll see you shortly. Come and assimilate yourself here. One thing I would request you is sit with one pew empty in between. So wherever you're sitting, so if you're sitting on the second one, let the third one be empty so that the deacons can go through it and serve you with ease. So leave one empty, one filled, one empty, one filled, the whole building. We'll see you shortly.